So he has been around the entire, well, a lot of the state anyway. Having worked in the trade of global goods and served in government, he has seen through both his travels and career how other cultures value California's distinct qualities. Of mixed Latino, Anglo, and Native American heritage, Evans has experienced the state's diversity in his own life, even pledging an Asian fraternity while attending a University of California school. So I'm looking forward to hearing. I've heard a little bit about this program, and Marcus, the stage is yours.
Thank you all for letting me come out. I really appreciate it. I'm going to give a quick speech. It's going to be about 5 minutes, and then I'll turn it over to questions and answers. Please, if you have any questions, please don't hold back. You know, if they're harsh, whatever, bring them on. So first I'm going to make a series of radical claims, and then I'm going to go into explaining how those claims can actually happen. And by the way, the explanation is also the point of the book, California's Next Century, and I'll give out information on this at the end of the speech. And the speech will explain what the title California's Next Century means. So first, the radical claims, and then I'll move on to the explanation. And again, these things will seem as though they're impossible and improbable right now, and given the current dynamics of the state and our government, they are. But with a shift in the people and the government, all of the claims that I'm about to make are possible and at the same time. So here's the radical claims. 1, half of your taxes removed. Half of the bureaucracy for every business in California removed. The debt of California, somewhere between $10 to $20 billion, paid off. The economy secured for the next 100 years, meaning that it is effectively recession-proof, and that you, your kids, your grandkids, and your grandkids' grandkids will never ever go through the economic period that we're going through right now. Let me throw in a few more. Roads, bridges, dams, seaports, schools, airports, brought up to not just the best in America, but world-class standards. Right now, they're the worst in America. 50,000 new blue-collar jobs, 200,000 new white-collar jobs. The quality of every elected leader and every appointed leader in government raised up to a level you've never seen before, and a return to local control where most of the life decisions are decided at the county level like you haven't seen since the 1960s. Plus world peace, increased international trade, and again, an explosion of economic activity just for the state of California. Again, radical, I know, and here's how it's possible. First, a quick history lesson. So, in the next 10 to 20 to 40 years, there's going to be new superpowers. Countries that will have as much money and raw power and influence as America. Not that America is going down, but you have what's called the rise of the rest. New superpowers are rising up and will have the same amount of cash. Their names will be Russia, China, India, Brazil, possibly a Southeast Asian collective known as ASEAN, and the EU. Currently, the EU already has more wealth than America. We don't typically talk about that. So, as these new powers rise up, they're starting to make a section of the planet for themselves. Since World War II, America was the main influence, the main organizer, the main person calling the shots around the planet. Now with these new countries coming up, they want that level of presence and influence in their section of the world. So what they're doing is they're participating less in the global negotiation order that was established after World War II between 1945 and 1955, such as the UN, the IMF, etc. China, Russia, Brazil, India, they're going to these international bodies less. And they're making their own UN and their own IMF, and they're inviting other countries to them. So in a sense, they're creating the UN the way they want it, from scratch. And here's the kicker. All of these countries are specifically not allowing America to come to their new UN meetings. Because they think, well, America had its turn. America kind of called the shots the last 60 to 100 years. Now it's our turn. And there's something to that. The IMF and the UN have never had a president or an oversecretary over them who hasn't been an American or European for the last 70 years. So you try telling a Chinese person, an Indian, Brazilian, Russian, or Southeast Asian, oh, these international organizations are about you. No, they're not, and they don't believe that. And that's why they're making their own. Shanghai Cooperation Council is an excellent example, but everybody's doing this. Here's where it gets a little hairy. We've seen a situation like this before. You have American and European foreign policy experts saying the situation we're going into in the next 20 to 30 to 40 years mirrors a period that we've already seen. 1880 to 1910, or what's known as the lead up to World War I, World War II. Some people consider those one long war. Around 1880 to 1910, you had new powers rising. Their names were Germany, Japan, and Italy. They saw France and England and Russia and other countries having chunks of the world already set up for their economic order. And so these new countries, well, they wanted their piece of the pie. And for a while, things worked out. International trade grew to new heights the world had never seen. This is around the time of Sherlock Holmes. So if you've seen the Sherlock Holmes movie, that's roughly the period that we're talking about. A lot of new commercial goods, a lot of new manufacturing, economic incomes are rising. That works for a while. But then, at some point, Japan decides it doesn't want to participate in the international order, and it walks out. And then Germany does the same thing, and they walk out. And then Italy does the same thing, and they walk out, and then in a few years, well, you know the rest of the story. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to happen here. What other foreign policy experts are saying is that this period we're going into most closely matches that 30-year period before these wars. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, but the steps are already there. And having new powers as they're rising pull out of the old negotiation that's kept the world at peace for the last 70 to 80 years is not a good sign. So, here's how it relates to California. There was a place, or there is a place called Geneva, Switzerland. And if you look at all of the international negotiations between countries, international negotiations between businesses, telecommunications negotiations, telephones, shipping, airports, seaports, whatever. Any major development between companies and businesses over the last 200 years, basically negotiated and signed in Geneva, Switzerland. The UN did some, but Switzerland's kept it up till, some people debate, roughly the year 2000. The mayor of Switzerland and the Swiss government have issued reports saying that they cannot hold on to their role as the World Negotiation Center anymore. They've officially said it themselves. They're saying that the world's changed too much. They can no longer hold the role that they used to. When Switzerland was the World Negotiation Center, America and Europe ran or owned most of the planet. That's no longer the case. The Swiss, when the world was mostly owned by England, France, Germany, Italy, Russia, you name it, said, hey, we're part German, we're part Italian, and we're part French, but we have this Swiss identity. So Germany, France, Italy, England, talk here, negotiate here. We speak your language, we know your culture, and we know the other guy's language and culture. So the best balanced arbiter for you is us Swiss here. That worked for a while. But now we need a new Switzerland for the next century. One that has Indian, Chinese, Russian, Brazilian, Southeast Asian, and American and European. In the book, and I cite it extensively in detail, I look at every other place on the planet that has that Switzerland dynamic, but for the upcoming century. Only California is the only place, land, area, whatever, that can fulfill the role of Switzerland, but for the needs of the next century. Nobody else even comes remotely close. We are the only place that has all of these demographic groups who have lived here together for over a century. No one else comes close, and this was the key that made Switzerland successful. We have that now. What I'm arguing in the book California's Next Century is that we take the Swiss economic model and we run with it. And then for the next century, we have the secure economy. By the way, Switzerland's never had a recession for the last 100 years. By the way, Switzerland has been the richest country for all social living standards for the last 200 years. We can have that here. They don't have those things by accident. They shifted their economy to become the global negotiation center. People focus on banking. Yes, they do banking. That's a fraction of how they make money. It's this other role. Even when times are bad, people still have to talk. People still have to negotiate, so they always have a constant source of income and ideas coming in. They have the lowest unemployment rate in the entire planet right now. This is not an accident. We can do this here. Furthermore, what I'm offering is that if California does not do this, no one's going to do it. And you will simply see the world order that has held us together at peace for the last 70 years begin to, well, continue to disintegrate. So, the options are stark. Make ourselves rich and secure for the next 100 years, secure world peace, or let the world order fall apart and continue to stay in this recession that we're still, what, 5 years into? By the way, documented thoroughly in the book. If you're Republican, if you're a Democrat, liberal, arch-liberal, arch-conservative, national news commentators, multiple national news commentators have said, there are no new ideas. No politician, no party, no one has offered any new ideas. We are in a recession, the likes of which you see once a century, and we are towing the same old ideas we've talked about for the last 30 years. We're 5 years into this recession. Although radical, maybe now is the time to look at some radical ideas. I'll turn it over to questions. Thank you.